Why do men always give you the least when you provide them with the most security? And isn't it even crazier that when you do finally stop providing them with that same security, all of a sudden, he's super obsessed with you and beating down your door? Well, what if I told you I can help you make sense of this crazy and confusing concept and also help you use it to your advantage? Which is why on today's live show, we're going to be discussing why men fall in love with uncertainty. That way, you can have the guy that you actually want as obsessed with you as the guys who are weird and strange and in your DMs. Point number one is men don't know. Now, what am I specifically referring to when I say men don't know? I mean, men don't know what they actually want. They know how to communicate to you what makes their life easier. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of that. Let's say a guy says to you, look, I would love for you to be available to me 24/7. He says, I'd love for you to be available all the time, that I can call on you. We can hang out anytime, any day, no matter what, no matter how much notice I give you, right? Then when you're actually available to him all the time, right? Then something very interesting happens, right? Because as you become 24/7 available as he asked you to become and as he said that he wanted, now you create a scenario in which there's no pressure. So you're thinking, okay, well, I'm giving him what he asked for. Isn't that a good thing, Tomisin? Because when men ask for something, they communicate something, I give it to him, everyone's happy. Well, actually, no. Because even though he asked for this, he didn't ask for it because he actually wants it in terms of making a better relationship. He asked you for it because it makes his life easier. And it shows up because when you get to a place where there's no pressure, because you're available all the time, you want to know what he does? Eventually, he stops planning. He stops planning because why would he need to plan? Why would he need to schedule? Because you're always available whenever he will call on you. And so you end up in a scenario in which now you have no plans ever, and now you end up having also no dates. Because in order to have a date, you have to be able to plan and schedule. You have to take time off work or time away from whatever it is that you were doing, and he has to take time away. And then you guys have to book a reservation at for a picnic, or book a reservation at a dinner place, or book a reservation at a tennis court, wherever you guys are gonna go for this date, right? There has to be time booked out and allocated to the thing you guys are looking forward to doing. But the problem is, if there's never any plan, if there's never any schedule, it's gonna be impossible for you to know what is going on and how to get ready, and it's also gonna be impossible for him to organize and schedule his life. So you want to know what ends up happening when you capitulate to his desire of wanting you to be 24/7 available. Instead of you getting to see him in the ways that you would like to see him by getting dates from him and him showing forth effort in this relationship, you get no plans. And subsequently, you get no dates. And so how do you guys end up hanging out 24/7 whenever you are actually available? You end up either sitting in the car, right? He's just driving around. You guys are going to the same place, driving around, or you end up going to his place, or he ends up coming to yours, depending on, whose place it is that you guys like to frequent at. Now, and the thing that I'm trying to help you realize is you might think men know what they want to the point that when they ask for it, that you just give it to them and everything will work out. But what I want you to understand, especially as it relates to men falling in love with uncertainty, they will never ask you for uncertainty, because they don't actually understand that that's what they truly want and they truly desire if they're going to build a long-term serious relationship with you, okay? So let me help you kind of structure your brain, because I know you're thinking, well, if men want uncertainty, then why don't they ask for that? Because they don't actually know what they want, and they don't know how to communicate what they want as it relates to what is best for a long-term serious relationship. They know how to communicate what they want as it relates to what makes his life easier. Because no pressure makes his life very easy, okay? No plans makes his life very easy. No dates and no scheduling makes his life very easy, but it doesn't lead to a successful relationship. You don't get what you want, you're unhappy, and then if you're unhappy, then the relationship is unhappy, everything is going to poo-poo, okay? I'm gonna try and illustrate to you through charting it out what it looks like when men will desire something, they'll want something, versus how they'll respond to that same thing, because sometimes we don't realize there's a difference here. So let's use a couple of different examples. We'll start off with, let's say he has a desire for you to text 24/7. He wants you to text him, okay? All the time. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, he always wants to text at least every 5 minutes, right? Sounds good. Now, how does he respond to you actually giving in to that desire of his, that you text him 24/7? All of a sudden, he's going to text you less. And you might be thinking, well, no, Tomisin, if I text him all the time and I text him 24/7, he's going to be texting me back just as quick because he's asking me to do that because he likes to text really quick and he likes to respond really quick. But you have to understand, whenever there is no space for someone else to, push forward towards you, then the only option, the only road, the only direction is for him to take a couple of steps back. So you might get him texting you back 24/7 for a little bit, and you might get him matching that same energy that he's been asking you for. But at some point of you texting him 24/7 all the time, he will eventually start to text you a little bit less. And it doesn't have to be all at once. It might start by going from every 5 minutes a response to every 7 minutes, and then every 10 minutes. And then one day he takes 3 hours. And then one whole day goes by and he doesn't even send you a message. But very quickly, you get yourself into a scenario where you give in to what he wants and you give in to what he's asking for. And then all of a sudden, you're getting a response that you don't want and that you don't desire, okay? Let's make another example, right? And we can even make it the one that we kind of just talked about, right? Being available 24/7, right? You end up giving in to his desire to be down for whatever, whenever, whether it's 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., whether you have work the next day, whether he wants to see you right now in the next 5 minutes, you don't even have your makeup ready, you haven't even taken a shower, right? And what do you get in response? You get no dates. Isn't that crazy? Because you have to think about this, right? When you actually give in to being available 24/7, what's the point of putting in real effort in planning and scheduling? There is none, because no matter whether he does planning or scheduling or whether he doesn't, you will still be available to him. We can even write another one here where guys will ask for things, oh, I don't want no pressure. And when he asks for no pressure, oh, I don't want to put labels on it. I don't want us to think too far into the future. We don't have to be talking about things we're not even there yet. What ends up happening, right? In your relationship with him, there is no direction. And you might think, okay, well, I'm giving in to what he says he wants because he doesn't want the pressure, because he doesn't want to think about it, because he just wants to be in the moment. He wants to be present with me, and it sounds so magical and fantastical. However, that same concept will then apply 6 months down the line, 8 months down the line, and you'll realize you've been a year with this guy and you're still giving in to his desire to have no pressure. But now you're wondering, wait a second. We've been here for a year and I've been giving you this no pressure thing like you said that you wanted, but in your response to receiving no pressure from me, now there's no direction of our relationship. And we're still kind of basically in the same place we were before, but now I'm even more confused because I don't know why we're spending so much time together and being so consistent in terms of the way that we're kind of dating, but also kind of not dating. And I don't know where we're going from here, right? So the reason I say all of this is because I want you to take notice of what men will say they want and then how they will respond to those things. Vice versa, let's take each and every one of these scenarios and give them in the opposite sense. So if you were to text a guy 24/7, that was his desire. Let's say instead you stop texting him 24/7, and even when he asks you to text him more, you say, oh, okay, I hear you, makes sense, and you don't actually do it. What is his response gonna be? Well, he actually has two options. Either he can choose to text you less and text you as often as you're not texting him, number one, or he can choose to say, well, it's giving me a little bit of anxiety that you're not texting me as much, so I'm gonna ask for you to text me more. And when you do finally message me, I'm gonna be paying more attention to each one of your messages, because now I'm thinking, why is she not texting me? What is she doing with all of her time? See, this is really good because we're going to talk about something in a little bit called brain space. All of this wondering that he's doing in the time that you're not around or the time that you're not messaging him. Now he's thinking, okay, what is she doing with this time? How is she spending it? Why is she not messaging me? Like all of this thought power going into you actually makes you more interesting, okay? Now, let's look at being available 24/7. Let's say you actually don't have time in your day to be available whenever he needs to. And if you have work or if you're tired, you want to go to bed, you want to hang out with friends, you do that and you're like, look, I can't be hanging out with you, the day of. I can't even hang out with you. Oh, you messaged me the night before and say, let's hang out the next day. I have lots of stuff that I need to do. And you're not available 24/7. Well, now he's forced to, if he's going to be with you and he's going to see you, the only way he's going to be able to see you is by actually planning and scheduling with you. Subsequently, you end up getting more dates because if a man's going to be in your life and you're not going to be available to him 24/7, his response in turn has to be to plan and schedule. Do you see how uncertainty can actually create a scenario in which you get the response that you desire? Okay. Now we go to no pressure, right? It sounds good in theory for men to be like, oh, I'm in a situation where there's no pressure. We don't have to think about the future, all that good stuff. But if, let's say, you do say, hey, look, I have a sense of urgency here. And if you don't have direction, I'm not going to beg you to have direction for our relationship. I'm just not going to talk to you. I'm not going to see you. I'm not going to spend or waste time with you. Now you've given him really only one choice as it relates to being with you, right? You've given him one choice from the standpoint that if he wants to get access to you, the only way to do that is to provide you with direction of what he wants to do here in this relationship, okay? And this is what I want you to understand about uncertainty. Uncertainty doesn't have to be a game. Okay. Uncertainty is just about understanding, forget what the men actually say that they want, because most of the time they're going to say that they want things that will make their life easier. How do I focus on giving a man things that he will actually respond to in a positive sense that will benefit me and benefit the future of a relationship with me? Because the reality of it is, even though men won't say that they want uncertainty, when they finally respond to it in the way that works for you, then you guys can actually have a serious long-term relationship. And I'll show you more about that in our next couple of points, okay? Point number 3 is about security. What I want you to explain to you about security is help you understand how men, when they're moving towards a goal, if you can find out how to motivate them, how to put gas in them, you can get to that goal, which will subsequently help you in terms of getting what you want in your relationship with him. Okay, let me explain this. So just like any regular car, right? We're imagining this man is the car. Just like in any car, in order for the car to actually go, it needs to have fuel. And in this case, right, what your fuel is going to be, it is in this scenario, your fuel is going to be actually uncertainty. The reason that your fuel is going to be uncertainty is because I want you to think of it like this. If the destination for a man is to have security in his relationship with you, meaning that he knows where he stands with you, he knows that you're choosing him as well, he knows that you want him as well, he knows that you're just as interested in him as he is in you and in building this relationship, right? He's trying to get to a place where he's more secure in that, right? He wants to know you like him just as much as he likes you, and you're both investing your time here. If he's trying to get to that destination, you have to actually strategically think to yourself, the gas, the fuel of getting to that destination, the motivation in getting to that destination has to be uncertainty. Because if it's not, why would he have a desire to get here? Okay? So this is what I want you to kind of think about, right? Because I'm going to talk about some other things and emotions in the next couple of points, but I want you to understand, even though those emotions might seem negative to you, in order for men to properly be motivated to get to a particular destination, especially one of security, they need uncertainty to fuel that. And that is a good thing, because in the process of him trying to obtain more security from you, even though he needs uncertainty to be able to get there, when he finally gets there, it'll be because he has taken action for you and worked for you, right? We'll put action here. Action is the only way he gets to progress forward. And as he progresses forward and does more things for you, then he shows you that he's really serious. He puts forth more effort. He also has more investment, and everything works how it's supposed to work. Point number 4 is about problem solving. Now I'm going to give you a question that's supposed to be an analogy to what I'm trying to discuss here, okay? So let's imagine our first scenario. There's 2 scenarios. You're gonna come over to my house, okay? Lots of fun we're gonna have at my house. But there are 2 things that we can do at my house, and I want you to answer me which one you would spend more time thinking about, focusing on, and putting energy towards, okay? Point number 1, or I should say, thing number 1 that we can do at my house. You can come over, and there's a big, large maze in my backyard that I haven't been able to figure out, okay? And I know for a fact, we both know for a fact, at the center of this maze, there is $1 million. And I say to you, hey, me and you, if we go through this and we can figure out how to get to the middle of this maze, I've never been able to figure it out by myself. But if we can do this on just between the 2 of us, I'll split the money with you, the $1 million with you, if we can get to the center of this maze. Or number 2, when you come over to my house, there's a free puzzle that's already done that we can look at and see and spectate how it's already finished. Yeah. So tell me, which one do you think would be more interesting to you? Which one do you think you would spend more time on? The puzzle, which is already done, or the maze, which at the center of it, there's a hefty $1 million that we could probably split at the end of the puzzle. Now, I know it's kind of a funny question, but I want to ask it all to you so that we can get to a very, very important point, okay? When you provide men with uncertainty by not talking to them all the time, by not being available to them 24/7, right? Even though I know it means that you're not going to see them all the time and you're not going to talk to them all the time, right? And you're not going to capitulate to everything that they need. Also, by setting boundaries, you can create uncertainty because he's like, well, I don't know if she likes me because she's not willing to do everything that I want her to do. All of these types of things, right, create a scenario in which men have to go into problem solving mode. Because men then have to ask themselves, okay, if I'm feeling like she's not as interested in me as I would like her to be in order to get to my destination of security, then I need to problem solve and figure out how do I get to that destination? Because at the center of that destination, there is a reward that's worth even more than $1 million, which is getting her and getting access to her and being in a relationship with her. So you see how you're creating a scenario that's much more intriguing, and you're making yourself the same you, okay, that you were before you started this process. You're making yourself so much more interesting because solving problems, and especially when the problem solving process will have a destination of a reward at the end, is so much more interesting than meeting someone who is like an already solved puzzle. See, you might have made the mistake in your relationships before in being like an already solved puzzle. Because when a guy meets you on that very first date, you're immediately thinking about how to do everything he wants, exactly how he wants it, right? And tell him everything about you, make sure there's no secrets, make sure you come out with before he has even asked you a single question, you're already being such an open book to the point where he doesn't have to do any guessing. Right? It's not very fun to hear someone tell you exactly how they feel, exactly what they want, exactly what they're thinking, because even though it's very clear and straightforward and people will say they love that, the reality of it is it's so uninteresting and it's so very, very, very boring. The same way it would be extremely boring to look and stare at an already solved puzzle. What's the point? I don't have to think about it. It's not going to take any more of my brain space away, and it's not going to be very interesting to me. It's already done, it's already solved, and I know what it is. Point number 5. Choice is such an important part of why uncertainty works and why men love it. When you create a scenario in which a man is uncertain with you, he does not feel complete security like, oh, he already has you in the palm of his hand and you're willing to do absolutely everything for him before he's ever earned it. You create a scenario in which he must problem solve to get more answers and get to the destination of security in this relationship with you. Now, because he's had to problem solve in order to gain more security in this relationship and had to take more action in this relationship by problem solving and by figuring it out how to get closer to your heart, how to get more access to you, he's made a choice here. And choices are so important for men in your relationships with them. See, some of you have made the mistake of being or allowing yourself, this is a horrible mistake, to be in a relationship with a man who didn't actually choose you. You might end up in a situation with a man who fell into you. Now, what does falling into someone look like? Because I know some of you are like, what is that actually? Is that like falling in love? No. What I mean by falling into you is the idea that you end up in a situation where, let's say you and a guy just start spending time together. And you spend one day together, you like each other's company, you spend another day together, and then all of a sudden you guys are just casually hanging out all the time. Then as you casually start hanging out, you like his vibe, he likes yours a little bit, now you guys casually start sleeping together. Now you're hanging out and sleeping together on a regular basis. Then at a certain point, you start asking yourself a couple of questions. Well, he hasn't said that he wants to date me. He hasn't said that he wants a relationship. But now that I'm sleeping with him and I'm hanging out with him all the time, I have some expectations here. So now you start approaching him with your expectations. As you start approaching him with your expectations, he's like, well, yeah, it makes sense. I do kind of like sleeping with you. And yeah, it makes sense. I do kind of like spending time with you. So I guess I don't want to be without being able to sleep with you and spending time with you. And I don't want to be lonely. So so we'll do a thing where I guess, yeah, like you said, I guess we can date. Yeah, for sure, that's fine, whatever. This is a problem though, because he didn't actually choose you. He kind of fell into a situation with you, and because he didn't really want to end it, or for some men, I'll be honest with you, didn't have the balls to end it or tell you how he really feels, he just goes along with it. And he goes along with what you really wanted instead of what he really wanted. So the reason I say this is because uncertainty creates a scenario in which the only way for him to access you is through choice, right? Is through choosing him, because he knows he has a desire for you and he knows that he wants you. The reason I'm making this such an important point is because I know that when I tell you men fall in love with uncertainty, the first thing you're thinking is, Tomisin, you're a liar, you're lying to me. Because when I use these tactics of not texting that man 24/7, not being available to him 24/7, telling him no, setting boundaries and all that other stuff you be talking about, it's poo-poo. Because when I do that, that man shows me no interest. That man, he don't ask me out. That man, he don't text me. He don't do nothing with me. Yes, because men fall in love with uncertainty when they actually have a desire to be with you. It's not about men falling in love with uncertainty as a way to take them from having no interest in you to all of a sudden having interest in you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So what we're trying to set up for you is not that you will pick out a man and then say, I want that man, and I'm going to use these strategies to get that man, even though he's shown me no interest, even though he's never chosen me, even though he's never communicated having a desire to be with me in a relationship with me. I want that man specifically, so it's got to be that man. No. What we want is we want a situation for you. We want, as we're going to refer to in a little bit, a dynamic for you that works, that you can thrive in. And we're going to plug and play with whichever man is going to fit that criteria. Okay? I'm going to explain that more in a little bit, but it's such an important part of what we're doing here. We want you with a man that chooses you, not a man that falls into you. Uncertainty creates a scenario in which he has to solve problems and take action. And subsequently, because he's taking action for you, he's making a choice to be with you and build with you because he wants you. Point number 6 is anxiety. In these two papers here that you have a choice in between, I want you to tell me which paper is going to give you more anxiety. Paper number 1, let's say I'm your teacher and I say this paper that you have to do is due at the end of the week, okay? So it's Monday today. By the time we get to Friday, this paper is due. That's paper number 1. Paper number 2 that I want you to do as an assignment is due at the end of the year, okay? Now, I want you to communicate with me. Which paper is going to give you more anxiety? Paper number 1, that's due at the end of the week, or paper number 2, that's due at the end of the year. Everyone must participate because we're going to get to a very, very important point here. The reason I asked this question is because I want you to see how anxiety is actually very connected to urgency and vice versa. See, a lot of you are choosing paper number 1 and saying your reason for choosing paper number 1 is because you have more urgency here. So I'll even write it down. And less urgency as it relates to paper number 2 because you just have more time to procrastinate it, okay? Now, I want to make a very important connection for you as it relates to your dating life and how men will approach relationships as well. See, anxiety seems like a bad emotion to give people, right? Why would I want to be giving people that I love and I care about anxiety? Why would I want to be giving a guy that I date anxiety? Thompson, that's a negative emotion. But I want you to see how closely connected anxiety is with a sense of urgency and how closely connected a sense of urgency can create anxiety. But in your relationships as well, that subsequently means when you're giving a man anxiety, you can also give him a sense of urgency. And what spawns, I want you to be thinking about this, what spawns from the emotion of urgency in your dating and talking stages? A man will then be forced to take action because he thinks it's urgent to take action in order to get to his desired outcome. If you have a paper due at the end of the week, even though you don't feel like it, even though you might feel lazy, even though you might have other things going on, you will make time to get this paper done. When men have a sense of urgency with you, because they have anxiety related to you, because they're uncertain with you, now all of a sudden they're taking action towards making this relationship work, towards showing you that they are the man that you are looking for, towards showing you that they can do things for you, towards going above and beyond in the relationship. And subsequently, from what you would consider to be a negative emotion, you've actually gotten a lot of positive things. Do you see how that kind of works in the opposite effect that you would think it would work? And so the reason I'm pointing this out to you is because sometimes you'll date men and you'll actually be thinking the opposite. You'll be thinking, how can I give the guy that I like the absolute least amount of anxiety that I possibly can? But we just finished breaking it down. When you give a guy the least amount of anxiety, he's subsequently also going to have the least amount of urgency towards you and towards dating you. Point number 7 is dynamic. Let's use an analogy with macaroni and cheese. When you're making macaroni and cheese, what's the process of making your macaroni and cheese, right? You boil the macaroni in a separate pot, okay? You get it all prepared and get it to the right, tenderness for the macaroni. And then you put your cheese in a separate pot, or if you're using Kraft Dinner, you prepare it in a separate, whatever, okay? And you prepare your cheese. Let's just say you're making homemade macaroni and cheese, and you're preparing your cheese in a separate pot, okay? And you get your cheese to a particular temperature, to a particular consistency, and you get your macaroni to a particular consistency. And then once you do that, you combine them both and you make your beautiful macaroni and cheese. And for some of you advanced people, you put it in the oven, you do a bunch of stuff to it, you're amazing, okay? The reason I'm giving you this analogy as an example is because I want to ask you a question. Why don't we just, cold macaroni, hard macaroni, and cold unprocessed cheese, just put them all together, put them in a pot, put some water in there, and process the macaroni while we're processing the cheese? Why don't we do it like that? I mean, we got to put them both on fire. We got to apply heat to both of them. Why doesn't it just work where we can just combine it in whatever order we want, however we want to do it, and make it the same way, okay? And make it a little bit faster with less pots, right? I seen someone say it there, because there's a process in order to make it work, right? There's a process in which you must do one thing, then do the other thing, and then when you combine them, everything works how it's supposed to work. You're creating the right dynamic by following the right steps beforehand. So let me connect this back to your relationships here, right? And with men falling in love with uncertainty. Remember, I said men fall in love with uncertainty because as they're uncertain, you create anxiety. That anxiety is also going to create a sense of urgency. They're going to end up taking action for you. And because they're trying to solve that uncertainty and get to a place of security, then when they get to a place of security, you've now created a dynamic that is ideal for you to thrive in your feminine energy. The reason I'm saying that is because, remember, I said earlier, I don't want you thinking about one particular guy and how to use this practice to get one particular guy. Because if he doesn't have real interest in you, giving him uncertainty is not going to generate the right response. What you want to be thinking about is having the right dynamic for yourself. That any man that you're going to be in a relationship with, this will work on. Because once you take these proper steps, you'll create a scenario in which that man chooses you. Once he chooses you, then you can sit back and relax. And you can be in your feminine energy because you won't have to scream, you won't have to yell, you won't have to beg him to do simple things for you. All you'll have to do is say, this makes me happy, and these things that you do or you say make me unhappy. Because he has interest in you, because he has a desire to be with you, because he has chosen you. Now he says, if these things make you unhappy, I make an adjustment and I do less of those things. If these things make you happy, I continue to do those things because I want you to be happy. So the reason I'm giving you the mac and cheese example is because I want you to understand how doing some things first will create a scenario and an environment in which now, when you combine them, you're in the right place. Let's say me and you are on a date, okay? Very romantic. I'm sitting there, I'm wearing something, okay? I probably wear something beige. I like beige, okay? I'm wearing a beige outfit. I look great. You're sitting there on this date with me. You're wearing your nicest outfit, your tightest pair of jeans. Your ass looks amazing, okay? You're 10 out of 10. Now, let's imagine a scenario in which we sit down on this date. Let's say in scenario number 1, I'm not very talkative, and I ask you a lot of questions. And in the process of me asking you a lot of questions, right, you end up chit-chatting a lot about yourself. and you're chatting and chatting and chatting. But then you walk away from this date and you're thinking to yourself, he asked me a lot of questions. What about that guy? I don't really know much about him. What does he want? Does he have any desire for me? I didn't really get that. I didn't really pick up on that because I was talking about all these other things about myself. What is he like really? Who is his ex? How much dating experience does he have, right? All these different questions you might have, right, will start filling up your brain space, right? Because you're thinking, I don't have answers to these questions. And actually, this guy's quite mysterious. I don't really know much about him. Now, because you have more questions, I should say, and less answers on me, you're starting to think to yourself, I wonder what he's thinking. I wonder what he's doing. I wonder how he spends his time, because these are all answers I don't have. Now, subsequently, let's create a scenario here for number 2, where on the outside, I tell you where I am all the time. I tell you who I am. I tell you what my desires are. I tell you if I desire you, okay? I tell you how attracted I am to you. I give you information on my entire life. I tell you all my traumas. Now, we have all of these answers sitting outside of your brain. What is there for you to think about? Not much. Because you have to understand, what takes up the most brain space within men also is when they have more questions about you. It's very difficult to have a lot of questions about someone who you have no uncertainty towards. See, like I said, that anxiety sounds like a bad emotion to have, but it's so much more interesting for men. And when you're taking up the most brain space, you're even more attractive. Even if you're the same person that you've been, even if you have the same size dump truck, the same size Yeezys, the same size everything, it doesn't matter. Even though you're exactly the same and you're doing the exact same things, you become more interesting simply by providing men with just a little bit of anxiety. Okay? So I don't want you to be scared of giving men that emotion. I don't want you to be scared of giving men a lack of answers or a lack of clarity. Now, I'm not saying you should go into it and say, oh, I don't even know if I want to date. I don't even know if I want to be in a relationship. That's not the lack of clarity that I'm trying to help you understand. That's not the uncertainty that I want you to give men. The uncertainty that I want you to give men is, hey, I don't know how I feel about you. I don't know if you're the best thing since sliced bread. I don't know if I really want to be with you. Maybe you're going to have to convince me. Okay? And this uncertainty will force him to take action if he has interest in you. And if he's taking action because he has interest in you, he's making a choice here. Choices are always good for men because when they can recognize they chose you, now all of a sudden you can hold them a lot more accountable. Because when they make a choice to be with you, they make a choice to take action to spend more time with you or get more access to you, you create a dynamic that allows you to thrive in your feminine and everything kind of fits together how it's supposed to.